So this morning in Delhi, wow, for thousands of people, the usual commute just completely derailed, didn't it?
It really did. Unexpected chaos is putting it mildly.
We're doing a deep dive today into that huge disruption on the Delhi Metro's Blue Line. Happened around 8:00 a.m.
That's right, peak morning rush. And it wasn't just, a 5-minute thing. It brought a major artery to a halt.
Thousands stranded. And it immediately raises those big questions about, well, our city's infrastructure, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It shows how vulnerable these complex systems can be. One technical issue ripples outwards.
Okay, so let's try and break down exactly what went wrong. We're talking the Blue Line, which is, it's crucial for Delhi.
A real backbone, yes. Connects major residential areas with the city center.
And the trouble started becoming really noticeable around 8:10 a.m.
Yeah, that's when the first signs appeared. Trains slowing down unexpectedly.
And platforms getting absolutely packed. People couldn't even get on.
And then, boom, a complete stop.
The initial word, the first reports, suggested a big problem with the power supply.
Yes, a critical power supply failure seems to be the trigger.
And in a system like the Metro, that's not just like the lights going out, is it? It's much more complex.
No, far more. A power failure impacts signaling that's crucial for safety. It hits communications, ventilation, everything. It's a cascade.
We actually managed to connect with a commuter, someone named Richa Mehta. She was stuck for 40 minutes.
40 minutes, wow.
Yeah, and she said the AC was off, no announcements, just sitting there in a packed train. Imagine the anxiety.
That's dreadful. And the lack of information often makes these situations feel much worse.
Definitely. And this wasn't just one spot. The whole section between Rajiv Chowk and Dwarka was essentially paralyzed.
And that specific section, Rajiv Chowk to Dwarka, that's a high-density corridor. Stopping that part impacts thousands, directly and indirectly, too.
It really does. Things got so bad, we heard reports, and this is pretty extreme, of some people actually getting off and trying to walk on the tracks.
Goodness. That's incredibly dangerous, obviously, but it speaks volumes about the level of desperation people felt.
Absolutely. No information, no movement. You can almost understand why someone might consider it, even though it's so risky.
It points to a breakdown, doesn't it? Not just technically, but in communication, in managing the situation, making people feel trapped.
Okay, so we know what happened broadly and where, but the big question is why? What actually failed this morning?
Well, the preliminary information seems to point towards a fault in an electrical relay.
Okay, an electrical relay. What does that actually do in the system?
Think of it like a specialized switch or a traffic controller, but for electricity. It directs the high-voltage power to where it needs to go, the tracks, the signals, the stations.
So if that fails?
If that relay malfunctions, it can cut power to a whole segment of the line, just stop the flow, which seems to be what happened.
Now, I gather these kinds of specific failures, like a single relay, are meant to be relatively rare.
They are generally reliable components, yes. But failures can happen in any complex electrical system.
But the length of the disruption, that's what seems concerning. Doesn't the Metro have backup systems for this exact scenario?
It absolutely should. That's standard practice. You have redundancy built in precisely so that a single point of failure, like one relay, doesn't cause a massive outage.
So the fact that the Blue Line was down for, well, quite a while.
It suggests either those backup systems didn't activate correctly, or maybe they were too slow, or perhaps the fault itself was more complex than initially thought and affected the backups too.
Right. It raises questions about how resilient the system really is. Not just having backups, but ensuring they work seamlessly when needed.
Exactly. Robustness isn't just about the primary systems. It's equally about the fail-safes and how quickly and effectively they respond.
Now, the DMRC, the Metro Corporation, they did put out a statement. Apparently within about 15 minutes of it becoming a major issue.
Okay, 15 minutes, that sounds reasonably quick on paper.
But by then, you had places like Rajiv Chowk, Janakpuri, Carol Bagh, major interchanges absolutely swamped, gridlocked, essentially.
And that's the problem in peak hour. 15 minutes is an eternity when trains are arriving every few minutes packed with people. The backlog builds incredibly fast.
We looked at social media, too, just to gauge the reaction. And predictably, people were not happy.
I can imagine. Frustration levels must have been sky high.
Yeah, everything from missing crucial meetings or exams to just sheer anger about being stuck to questions about accountability. Why does this happen?
And that recurring theme, feeling left in the dark, lack of clear, timely information during the incident itself.
It really highlights the human side of it, doesn't it? It's not just an infrastructure problem. It messes up people's days, causes stress, costs time and money.
Absolutely. Lost productivity, increased anxiety, and it chips away at public trust in a service that millions rely on daily.
And the knock-on effects. We saw reports that with a metro down, demand for cabs and auto rickshaws just exploded.
Predictable, yes. Everyone's scrambling for an alternative at the same time.
Surge pricing went through the roof, apparently. And obviously the roads just became even more choked than usual.
It demonstrates how interconnected everything is. You take out one major transport artery like the Blue Line, and the pressure immediately shifts, overwhelming other parts of the system.
So this brings us to the sort of the bigger picture. Is this just a one-off unlucky event, or does it point to something more systemic about Delhi's infrastructure?
That's the critical question. Some experts are suggesting that while Delhi's metro is vast, perhaps some of the underlying systems haven't kept pace.
What do you mean by that?
Well, there's talk about reliance on maybe older protocols or more manual interventions for resets and diagnostics compared to newer, more automated systems you might see elsewhere.
Like AI monitoring or predictive maintenance?
Exactly. Systems that use data analytics to spot potential problems before they cause a failure. Think about analyzing power fluctuations, equipment temperatures, vibration patterns.
So instead of waiting for the relay to fail, you might get a warning sign days or weeks in advance.
Precisely. Many modern metro systems, say in places like Singapore or Tokyo, invest heavily in this kind of proactive predictive maintenance. They use AI to constantly monitor the health of the system.
And the fact that this relay failure caused such a long shutdown here might suggest we're not quite there yet.
It could suggest a potential gap, yes, a potential over-reliance on reacting to failures rather than preempting them through advanced monitoring and automated backup protocols.
We heard from one infrastructure analyst who basically said this might be avoidable with better tech, and that maybe investment in maintaining and upgrading the existing network hasn't matched the pace of expansion.
It's a classic challenge for rapidly growing cities. Expansion is visible and popular, but the less glamorous work of maintaining and upgrading the core infrastructure is just as vital, if not more so.
Because when it fails, the consequences are immediate and widespread.
And it underlines that infrastructure spending isn't just a cost. It's an essential investment in the city's economic health and the quality of life for everyone. A reliable transit system is fundamental.
So what happens now? The DMRC has put out a statement. They're promising a thorough internal investigation.
That's the standard response, and it's necessary.
They've also pledged to enhance response protocols. But you hear from commuters, and apologies feel a bit thin after an experience like that.
Understandably. People want concrete action and assurance. Accountability is key.
The real test will be what comes out of that investigation.
Yeah.
Right? Will it be genuinely deep? Will it be transparent?
And crucially, will it lead to tangible changes? Upgrades in technology, yes, but also maybe in operational procedures, in communication strategies during disruptions, and a sustained commitment to funding maintenance.
It really feels like this incident, as disruptive as it was, could be a catalyst, or at least it should be.
It certainly highlights the vulnerabilities and hopefully creates a sense of urgency.
Urgency to maybe fast-track some of those smarter, more resilient solutions we were talking about.
But until those changes are actually implemented and proven effective,
You can imagine commuters feeling that little bit of anxiety every time a train slows down unexpectedly now, wondering, is this it again?
it underscores the fragility, doesn't it? These complex urban systems we rely on are amazing when they work, but they need constant care and intelligent management.
You've been listening to The Deep Dive. We've looked today at how what seemed like a couple of hours of delay on the Delhi Metro's Blue Line actually shines a light on some potentially much bigger, longer-term issues with our city's infrastructure.
It was more than just a delay. It was a stress test that revealed some potential weaknesses.
So as we wrap up, the question we want to leave you with is this. Will today's chaos be a genuine wake-up call? Will it lead to real, lasting improvements?
Or will it, unfortunately, just fade into memory as another frustrating day for Delhi commuters until the next time?
And maybe a related thought for you, the listener. How do we ensure that these moments, these disruptions, actually translate into positive action from authorities?
How can we, as citizens who rely on these systems, push for that resilience and reliability we need?
For more deep dives into the issues shaping our cities and our world, make sure you follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We try to bring you the stories that really matter.
We'll keep tracking developments on this story, of course.
Until next time, stay informed and stay safe. And maybe give a little thought to those invisible networks keeping things running and what happens when